Hello, hello, hello. It is Stephanie here, and welcome back to the Rent to Rent Rocket Live series. Well, I'm going live every day for 7 days in the run up to the launch of the Rent to Rent Success book. And today's the day, it's book launch day. You can now go on Amazon and find the Rent to Rent book there, which has been totally mind blowing, totally amazing. And already we're at number one in real estate. I was just telling Steve, number one in real estate, number one in small business entrepreneurship. And we've had over 27 reviews. So if you want to go on there and have a look. It's on Amazon, or if you go to renttorentsuccess.com/book, you'll find the link to buy it on Amazon if you'd like to do that. So today's guest is the multi-talented Steve Curtis of 360 Property Group. I've already admonished Steve most severely because he's still in Dubai having an amazing time with his family while his property portfolio here in the UK is being run by an outsourced team of staff. So we'll be talking about how Steve does that. Steve has also gone from £50,000 in debt to running this multi-million-pound portfolio, £5 million portfolio within 4 years. And Steve hosts the monthly networking event, Rent to Rent Live, which is hugely exciting. And there have been some new developments on that, which I know that we'll cover in our talk today too. Before I dive in, let me just say this is the last in the series of 7. I'd be sorry to see them ending because I've really enjoyed not only connecting with you live, but also meeting and talking with other property investors who've had a rent to rent rocket their success. So we've had this week, on Monday, we had Jamie Medill. On Tuesday, we had Lucy Ingram. On Wednesday, we had Andy Graham. On Thursday, we had Giuseppe Leone. And today, we have the incredible Steve Curtis. It's such a thrill talking to property heavyweights and finding out their own unique takes and perspectives. So, as I say, I'm delighted to welcome Steve back today. And I want this to be interactive. So say hello. If you're watching live with us, type live so that we know you're with us. Say hi, Steve, and ask your questions. If you want to know how Steve is doing this from Dubai, I do, then ask your questions in the comments and we will ask them to him. Hello, Maria and Carol, and hello, Steve. Welcome to the series.
Hey, Stephanie, how are you?
Really good, thank you. Not quite as good as you, but very well.
Cool. Yeah. Well, thanks for the invite initially. What a great lineup. So it's it's a privilege to share the stage, so to speak, with all those other great investors. So yeah, thank you, and congratulations on your book launch. How exciting!
Yeah, thank you so much, Steve. It's been a long time coming with the book launch, but we're really thrilled that it's now up and it's out there, and we've been having some really phenomenal feedback so far. So we've got Maria, we've got Carol, we've got Nicole who've commented, and Nicole's saying that the sessions this week have been so fruitful. I think this could be the best yet. Let's see. Steve, tell us a little bit. Many people know you in the rent-to-rent business community, but for anybody who hasn't come across you before, Steve, tell us a bit more about you.
Yes, so for the last 20-30 years, my day job has been interior design. So my first job, in fact, was designing bars and restaurants and hotels. So I did that for 10 years. And then back in 2000, I set up my own design business. Again, just designing all hospitality venues. So at quite an early age, I was kind of like involved in property, converting property, designing properties. So from that perspective, I've been in property kind of most of my life. Mm-hmm. Although back then I didn't know how you could actually make money out of property. Not like I do now. Mm-hmm. So I've still got an interior design business that's very successful. Although it's a service industry, so it's kind of up and down. It's kind of feast or famine. And in 2008, if anybody remembers that recession, we took a big hit. A lot of the industry did, and also look what's happened in the last 12 months. Mm-hmm. The interior design business, like many industries, have just kind of fallen flat on their feet. So several years ago, I was looking for something else that I could kind of supplement my design income with. And my wife actually introduced me to property investing. So she brought me the Rich Dad, Poor Dad book. As a lot of people, that was almost like their light bulb moment. You know, they kind of discovered, oh yeah, this is how you make money from property, right? Sounds so simple. So, but off the back of that, we went to do some HMO training. It's like quite a detailed, in-depth 3-day HMO training course with a view of purchasing some properties and getting started. But at the time, we didn't really have capital to buy. But we discovered rent to rent. We heard rent to rent being talked about, and this was about 5 years ago. And yeah, we thought that's going to be our way in to property. Yeah, low capital, quite a quick turnaround. And yeah, we started going to a networking event in Holborn at the time to try and find out more about it. You know, we were asking the basic questions like, what contract or what agreement do you need in place with a landlord? You know, what agreement do you need in place with a tenant?
Yeah.
You know, it's easy, isn't it? Once you've kind of learned about it, but when you're first starting out, a lot of these questions are quite alien. So yeah, we started in rent to rent. Took us 6 months to find our first property. You know, wow. we were learning as we went along. I guess our main strategy at the time was to go through agents, because we thought if we've got agents out there looking for property for us, that's like an extension to our own team. But yeah, after we got the first property, we took a new one on every consecutive quarter for 2 years. So, you know, we built up the momentum and yeah, built up a portfolio from there.
No, that's really interesting. I'll just say hello to Christella, who's joined us, to Esmond and to Prince. And Esmond's asked a really good question, so we'll come to that in a second. But before we do, Steve, I just wanted to ask you, 6 months it took you to get the first one. So how did you not get downhearted? How did you keep going?
Yeah, we had difficult moments, I have to admit. There were times we thought, you know, are we doing the right thing? Should we just pack this in? This is not as easy as they make it out to be. But I guess our criteria for property, one of them was cash flow. And because we figured out we didn't need to take on that many properties to kind of cover our basic outgoings. First goal was for Catherine, my wife, to be able to give up her day job because we had a baby coming on the way. So we wanted to cover her salary to start with. And I was going to continue my design business, but we wanted to kind of cover part of my income as well. So we set a target of $750 cash flow a month per property. So we turned down an awful lot of properties which would have cash flowed sort of 500, you know, between the 500 and 600 mark. So, you know, depending on what everybody's kind of goals are, you know, some people would have taken on properties quicker than us. And in fact, some people do take on properties quicker than us. So I'd say the cash flow was thing that kind of made things a little bit slower for us. But yeah, we got there in the end. And I think we were just motivated because we had an end goal in mind. You know, our why was quite powerful. You know, we had a baby coming, the clock was ticking, and we wanted to cover Catherine's salary. So we were going to get those properties. You know, nothing was going to get in the way. You know, with property, you get lots of hurdles, don't you? So you've got to have a strong why. And we'd started networking by this point. Every month we went to a networking event, and you know, there was a lot of people in a similar situation to us looking for their first property. But there was also a lot of people there with a lot of experience, so we could get a lot of support from them and a lot of guidance. So that was a massive boost, and yeah, kept us going. But you've got to have a good why. I think if it's only a financial gain, then that's going to make it harder at some point.
Yeah, so that did keep you going, knowing that you were and getting Mrs. C, you know, out.
Yep.
And what have we got here? Esmond is asking, if you had to start again today, Steve, what would you do?
Start again in rent to rent? I'm guessing that is. So if I was starting rent to rent from scratch without any of the knowledge we've now got, I would probably just I'd dive straight in and choose a mentor from day one and just fast track everything we're doing. We had a 3-day in-depth course, which was brilliant. We learned about HMOs inside out, although we didn't get any training on rent to rent. So, but we had a real good knowledge of HMOs, which is, a big part of it. But then we were kind of learning everything on the way, how to talk to agents, what to say on a viewing, exactly what types of properties to look for. And I think we could have fast tracked that just by choosing a mentor. Definitely that if I was going to do it again, I would just, that would save us money. I would say definitely by choosing a mentor from the start who can just guide us and just fast track what we do.
Yeah, totally agree. I do that now when I go into anything. When I was a beginner, I was very reluctant to, invest in all of these things. But now over the other side, you can totally see that it's a total shortcut. So when we wrote the book, I've had mentor training, coaching, and a team as well to deliver, to make all of the book stuff that we had no idea about happen in the right way. So Prince is saying hi, everyone. And we've also got Isaac Kikabi with us. And he's just saying congratulations again on the book. And he's going to start reading over the weekend. And Isaac also has a really interesting room on Clubhouse. Have you partaken in the Clubhouse, Steve?
Do you know, I haven't yet. I've signed up to it, and I'm in talks with a couple of people actually to set up a couple of rooms, which will be really interesting. So, but I haven't actually spent much time on it at the moment. The last 2 weeks since our last event has just been crazy. So we're looking to work on another couple of properties at the moment, which is quite interesting, doing it from such a distance. But no, I haven't been on there yet. How have you found it?
I like it. I just picked up my phone there because I'm actually going to be in a Clubhouse room. Somebody invited me on. I haven't really done much with it at all. I'm on there. So I'm at Stephanie Taylor, if anybody wants to follow me on Clubhouse. Who are you, Steve, on Clubhouse?
Do you know, I don't know. I think it's Stephen Curtis, I think it is. I need to check it out. I say I've spent so little time on it at the moment.
So I'm at Stephanie Taylor on Clubhouse, and on Sunday I'll be joining a property room. It's a really popular one. So on Sunday, if anybody, 4 p.m, if you're around then, follow me on the Clubhouse and you'll see. That's only if you're watching. Sorry. I've got my window. I must have these windows open here. So what date is Sunday? It's the 31st of January. So you'll see if you're watching. Sorry, anyway, that's totally got us off track. But Steve, were you going direct to landlords or through agents?
So we started off by going through agents.
Mm-hmm.
It put us out of our comfort zone, if I'm honest. Just picking up the phone to agents and walking into the estate agent, letting agents' shops. We kind of wanted to put ourselves out of our comfort zone and just immerse ourselves in that kind of sector. So 2 or 3 days a week, every week, we would be going around the estate agents and booking viewings. So in Southeast London, we're well known by a lot of the estate agents, and we've kind of built up a good rapport with them. So yeah, that's kind of what we started. And we've taken on properties since direct to landlord. We haven't done all the marketing, all the different kind of marketing things you can do, such as direct to vendor letters. Most of ours came through landlords and through agents and word of mouth. Yeah.
Nice. So yeah, it is possible, because I find that people either tend to prefer one side or the other. They're not just usually equal Stevens between landlords and agents. That's good to know. So what's your top tip, Steve, for getting deals from letting agents?
Well, you've got to be able to put rapport. I think you need to understand, I think, how the letting agents are set up and how they're structured. Are they just doing a tenant find service for landlords? Are they going to be managing the property or overseeing maintenance? it's quite easy to go in there and just to offer maintenance and say we'll take it off your hands, and you don't need to kind of get involved. But for some agents, the maintenance side of things is part of their income. So I think it's important to have like an open conversation with them. Just decide what, understand how they're set up. Don't be too forceful. It's come across professional. Make sure you've done your homework, and you know the property you're going to go and visit and the area. What's the legislation in those areas? So I've been to a few viewings with agents in Article 4 areas, and they're trying to promote properties on company lets, which don't have planning permission. So not just because you're going to see an agent doesn't mean to say they know more about the industry than you do. So it's really important you know your stuff. Just because a property's got a license or had a license doesn't mean to say it's got planning permission, to be used as a HMO. So it's really important you do the groundwork there.
So now, Steve, take us through that first situation. So there you were, you and your wife had been looking consistently, going 2 or 3 days a week for 6 months, and you'd had all sorts of deals come through your hands, and you decided not to take them on for various different reasons. And then what happens with the first one that you did take on?
Oh yeah, so that was quite funny because the first one you take on is always like a great learning curve, isn't it? I could write a book just about one property. I'm not kidding. But don't get me wrong. We put lots of offers in before that. We were putting offers in most weeks on property. It wasn't, we wasn't that fussy. So it just sometimes the landlord didn't want to do company lets. Sometimes they whatever reason the offers didn't go through, but we were putting lots of offers in. But yeah, this first property, I don't think the agent even checked our company or me. It was one that's been sat on the market for a while, and it was a bit, it's a bit of a, call it a bit of a grunter. Didn't look very nice. So, it was sat there, and but we had a look at it. It was a 3-bed, and we saw the opportunity to turn it into a 5-bed, and we put our offer in, and it got accepted, and we managed to get a rent-free period on it as well, which was nice. So we had contractors in doing stuff. We started getting tenants doing viewings, before we was even paying rent. That was good. And initially we had our goal was to get our money back out within 6 to 9 months, but that didn't quite work out. We later discovered we had to change the boiler, so that cost like over £1,000 extra. So it was more like around 12, 13 months getting our money out on that first one. But it worked well. It was a good learning curve for us. We learned the processes, getting the right contract in place with the landlord. That was probably our biggest learning, because after we handed the property back last year, in fact that's the only property we've handed back. All the other landlords have extended our terms, but that first one the landlord wanted it back, but they wouldn't release our deposit, so we had to take them to court. And we had the court hearing back end of last year online at the Royal Court of Justice. I'm pleased to say we kind of won the case and we got our deposit back, but it was only because of the actual agreement we had in place. So there's a huge lesson there. If anyone's going to sign an agreement with a landlord or through an agent, you've got to understand what your clauses are and what you're signing. Don't, because in London, for instance, you're kind of effectively signing £100,000 contract if you take property on for 5 years. So it's a big deal. So if you don't know what you're signing, get somebody involved who does. I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so important to have the right contracts. I totally agree. If you want to know more about contracts, people that are watching or listening, we at renttorentsuccess.com/contracts. There's a whole blog post there, an article all about contracts, what contracts to use, and a few key points to know. So I usually like to then talk about the refurbishment, but we have had some really good questions here. We're going to come on to mentoring later. How are you taking on properties from abroad? Anne Hubbard is saying, yes, join Clubhouse, wealth of information and networking. Anne is at Anne Hubbard in Clubhouse. So yeah, let's connect, Anne. Connect me on Stephanie Taylor. And Santana Bianco has joined us. And Isaac is saying, what's your thoughts on rent-to-rent companies and agents asking for personal guarantees? Also, do you go for deposits or deposits insurance? You take that one, Steve.
Yeah, sure. So good question, Isaac. Thanks for that. I think I've given personal guarantees, and I don't have an issue with that. I think so. Either one or two properties I've given a personal guarantee because that's what the agent asked for. And if we didn't give a personal guarantee, we wouldn't have taken on those properties. So I appreciate it's a personal thing, but my view is, okay, so yeah, we're kind of like, we've got the agreement through our limited company. I appreciate that. And there's limited liability there. But for me, if I'm going to sign a contract through a limited company, I'm effectively happy to take on that responsibility as well. I don't think people should hide behind a limited company for those reasons. I appreciate everybody's situation is very different, and it's a very personal thing. But for me, I'll give a personal guarantee if it's required for the right property. And the other point there about deposits and deposit insurance. Yeah, I mean, I would love it if all our properties just had no deposit. But the fact is, most of our properties have deposits because most of them are through agents, and that's what the agents have insisted on. So again, everyone's different. Take it or leave it. But again, that's the price of doing business. Hopefully we'll get those deposits back. But for me, that's we factored that into every deal. That there's a deposit. More recently, and I'm looking at one now. There's no deposit. I guess because we built a reputation with agents in the industry. So which is a little bit different. I appreciate when you're starting out.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, well, I agree with what you're saying, Steve. With agents asking for personal guarantees, really, they're asking for personal guarantees because your limited company doesn't have any history. So if your limited company has 3 years of accounts, you don't need personal guarantees because you've got your company that can guarantee you. So yeah, that's a normal thing for them to ask for a personal guarantee to give your company a chance, which is a baby company, and so can't guarantee you. And then on the deposits versus deposits insurance. So because we are normally going through landlords, we actually have not paid deposits, in fact, ever, because the ones we got through agent were on tenant find only. So it just varies depending where you're located and what will work, where you are and with your strategy. This is a good one because you're mainly with agents, Steve. Carol Bentley is asking, what do you say to an agent when you call them?
Yes, I mean, I tend to just now we just have a general chat and we talk about the industry and the state of the economy, things like that, before kind of getting down to the nitty gritty with properties, really. Again, when we first started out, we were on Rightmove, looking for properties we thought would be suitable and then setting up viewings because that's all we knew. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing because we learned so much from doing these viewings, and that was another way to build up a bit of a relationship with agents as well. But you can upset some by doing that. If you then drop in, you want to do company lets, and they just point blank don't do company lets, they might feel like you're wasting the time. I think if I was starting out again using the agents, I would literally just phone them and find out which agents have got landlords who are willing to do a long-term let. And do company lets, and just there's agents out there who won't do it. Doesn't matter how much you dress it up, they just have a policy and they won't do company lets. So you want to discover which ones do, and I would dedicate time in building relationships with them. So yeah, good question, Carol. Hope that helps.
Yeah, thank you so much, Steve. Now let's move on now, because the other big thing that people worry about is they're going to get these properties in terrible conditions. Some of the ones that we've taken on have been in terrible conditions. Oops, sorry. have been in terrible condition, but they're not always. But what was well, give us that first example. Was there a big refurbishment needed? And if so, how did you fund it, Steve?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, it wasn't that pleasing on the eye, but at the same time, we didn't want to spend too much money on it. You know, I think that the carpets were almost past their usable life, but we just managed to survive with the carpets. But we had to put some stud walls up to create 2 extra bedrooms, and in doing so, we did some decorations, but we didn't decorate the whole house. It just the minimum we needed. The landlord had some furniture which was quite grotty, so we got rid of that. So we furnished it all ourselves. I guess the big one was the boiler. That cost just over £1,000 to put the boiler in. So I mean, to be honest, I've never been too concerned with how much money I put into a property, as long as I can try and get the money back out within 6 to 9 months. So that's more important for me, is how quickly can we get our money out.
Yeah, I love the way that you think and the way that you've grown your business. Because the reason I asked that question about the 6 months initially is I do this myself, you know, not with property so much, but with other things. You know, you start off and you think, right, okay, I'm going to do this, and then it doesn't happen. Okay, I'm not doing it. And but you kept going for 6 months because you knew where you were going, you knew you would get there, and you just kept going. And now look at you, you've built up an empire of properties, but not only you've got the properties you manage, we haven't come on to this yet, but you've got lots of different properties that you've bought and the developments that you're doing. So I just love that you have that strategic long-term approach. You're prepared to put money in. Usually the boiler would be a landlord thing, but I'm guessing because it's just a little 3-bed house, he had no intention. And that's what would made it more profitable, was that you were paying him a single let rent, I'm guessing.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the issues we had there, the original boiler was one of these old-fashioned back boilers. Yeah. So it's hidden behind the old gas fireplace. In that room, we wanted to change into the 5th bedroom. So as far as the gas regs go and health and safety, that was never going to work in a million years. So we had to, you know, I'd never seen a back boiler before. So, you know, now we would know what to look for. So it was our decision really to change that boiler. As far as the landlord's concerned, they were like, you know, that's not our problem really. If you want that 5th bedroom, you know, you'll have to pay for the boiler. Yeah. But we weighed up the. We didn't just make an impulse decision. We looked at what's the payback in investing in this boiler. I forget how many months it was now, but we discovered maybe an extra 7 months or something. That room would have paid back that boiler.
And so, how many years was it, Steve, that you had it?
3-year contract.
Yeah. No, it's good. And to be honest, it gets you off the starting blocks. You start somewhere, and each one you do becomes better and better and better. And suddenly, you're a business person. You've got a portfolio. You've got a team. You're living in bloody Dubai, if you please, ladies and gentlemen. Let's just skip around then and come to this other question, which Nicole has asked. This is a good one. How are you taking on properties and running your business from abroad, Steve?
A great question, Nicole. Yeah. So, well, I should first probably explain why we are here. So, you know, we normally come out to Dubai for New Year each year. My sister-in-law lives out here, so you know, it's a bit of a family get-together. Because of the situation back in London, approaching Christmas, we came out here a bit earlier this year. So we came out on the 17th of December. For a 2-week holiday. We were due back on the 4th of January, and you know, kids going back to school. And then when the government announced, that the schools are not going to go back before the 18th of January, we thought, we'll stay a bit longer. And then they announced, they're probably not going to go back before mid-February. So we're thinking we're probably not going to go back till mid-February. And you know, today they've just dropped a bombshell, haven't they? There's no flights now between UAE and the UK. They've suspended them. So I'm not getting stressed out about that at the moment. So we're out here really just because the situation in the UK is in lockdown, and in Dubai, you know, there's no lockdown. So we're just going to take advantage of a situation that the schools are closed, because normally that would prevent us staying out here.
Yeah, and I was on a call with you earlier in the week, and your lovely son was partaking in the conversation, which was lovely, and you just come in from swimming. So yeah, it's just a great lifestyle that you've got there. So
it's nice, yeah. But also, just going back to the question from Nicole as well. So, the agents know we're looking to take on properties. So as and when anything comes up, I'll get the phone call, and we got one of these phone calls last week, and the landlord had done quite a lot of work to it. So a friend of mine based in London, he's also a property investor. I just asked him, look, can you just kind of go to this property, give it the once over, give us an update on what things the landlord has done, what has he changed, so we can put an offer in. So yeah, the offer's gone in, provisionally accepted, and yeah, we're just hopefully going to sign that one up in the next couple of days. As soon as we've done that, we've got our team. I'll get somebody out there to measure up the floor plans for the HMO license. I'll get our contractors in there just to firm up the quotations for the work we need to do to make it compliant. And we don't need to be on the ground for any of that. We're taking full advantage of our power team that we've set up, and technology is brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah. It really is. It almost feels like you can be in the room. You can look around and say, well, what's that over there? And what, all of that. So brilliant. So Isaac's just saying he better get his rent to rents while he's still employed then. That's super helpful. And also for you clubhouseites, Isaac Property at ISAAC Property does one of really good coffee room all about rent to rent. So check that out. And guys, in the comments, put your clubhouse name so we can all connect with each other. So put your clubhouse name in the comments, and we can all connect. And Prince has said, what kind of personal guarantees would be required as a beginner? So actually, just going back to Isaac, just want to quickly say to you, Isaac, you don't necessarily need to be employed. You either need to be employed, or you need to have a guarantor who's employed, or you need to obviously build up your business so that your business can guarantee you, or you need to go direct to landlords. Because we were direct to landlords, we weren't employed from the start. Or from almost the start, and we could get the deals because we didn't have to pass referencing, because we were working with landlords who just wanted to work with us because they liked us. And so moving on to Prince, what kind of personal guarantees would I require as a beginner? So over to you, Steve.
Yeah, so basically the personal guarantees that we've got in place, I'm effectively underwriting the agreement between my limited company and the landlord. So, I'm personally guaranteeing the guaranteed rent agreement for 3 or 5 years, in whichever case it is. So, normally if that is, if there's no personal guarantee in place and it's just limited company to landlord, if a limited company folded, but that's the end of it. The landlord would take his property back, and you kind of released from the obligations there in most cases. But the personal guarantee effectively means that we're kind of underwriting that deal, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. But I just want to reassure people, because I think what people feel is that, say if they took on the property, then they decided, I want to immigrate to Australia or whatever, or their circumstances change, they no longer want to run their rent to rent, that they've got to pay the rent for the next 5 years. Well, most landlords, their nightmare is for you to stay in there and not pay the rent. For most landlords, if you go to them and negotiate, I would like to leave on such and such a date and I'll pay the rent up till then, most landlords are going to say, okay, thank you very much. Give me the keys back. They're not going to argue with that, because they got their asset back and you can move on to, and people can understand if things change. So it's not necessarily, you are committed to your 3 years. That's what the legal contract says. But of course, in life, you can always negotiate. So that's what I try to remind people as well. Now, Nicole's asked the question, any disadvantages to running it remotely? And before I get into this, what I just want to say is, for most of you who are just starting out, you're not going to be running your rent-to-rent stage remotely. This is the reason why. You're doing rent-to-rent so you can invest little money and make money. And you do that because you're doing the work. If you have to pay somebody else to do the work, you're not making all that money. You're massively reducing the profit, which makes it much less And also, it's not necessarily going to go well because you don't know how to direct people yet in how to do what they need to do. So what we're talking about is what you can move along to after you've been doing it for a while. But let me go over to Steve. When you first started, Steve, were you managing the properties yourself?
Yeah, and we still do. To be fair, we manage our own properties. So we just put in, Catherine's our property manager. She's got a great relationship with all the tenants, and she deals with tenant onboarding. So we're just kind of systemizing the maintenance side of things. We've got a couple of PAs who work alongside that with me. So the next thing is the onboarding of tenants. We're just systemizing that. Yeah, we effectively manage in-house, which is good. I think it's a great way to learn for people starting out.
Great. Yeah, absolutely. So I just want to take that off the table because you do sort of go into this fantasy land. Oh yeah, I could have this portfolio of all these rents and have other people manage them. And in our case, we do outsource that, and we pay somebody to do that. But that's step 2. Step 1 is get set up and get up and running. Hi, Kasim. And Santana has shared that she's at Santana Blanco, and Marco Sesto for the clubhouse. So we'll get on and connect with all of these people. Isaac's saying, thanks, that's brilliant. I don't think I've had those points before, the read the guarantor. Had my first direct to HMO landlord call back today. Wonderful. Following the Frank chat, I can see the advantages, and I'm glad I sent the letters. Kudos, Isaac. Steve, what's your exit, Isaac would like to know, or your end goal with rent to rent?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question, because when we first set out, our initial goal was to take rent to rent on to kind of replace our salaries, our kind of day job income, if you like, and then to step up and buy properties and hold and rent out. And we saw rent to rent initially as more of a stepping stone, yes, and a shorter term strategy. But apart from the first one, all our landlords have renewed all our contracts. Yes. So we kind of see that as more of a long-term strategy now, I have to admit, rent to rent. And we're looking to pick and choose which properties we want to add to that portfolio, because it's just such a great strategy, and it's a great cash flow income generator. I think the best scenario is if you can get an option to buy in with the rent to rent agreement. So if you can get that option to buy, that's a better longer term strategy as well, if you can bolt that on. But I mean, we'll keep these rent to rent properties for as long as we can, and we're looking to add to that portfolio. Like you said earlier, Stephanie, we've got property we're buying and developing as well, HMOs and some commercial to resi projects. So that's where most of my time is going to be kind of spent moving forwards, is building that side of a portfolio. But yeah, when that phone rings and we've got a good rent to rent property on the table, we'll certainly take a look at that.
Yeah, no, phenomenal. One of the things that I love about speaking to the guests this week has been they started out in rent to rent because in most cases, well, some people already have their own properties, but they've run out of money and then they get into rent to rent. And some people start off in rent to rent and then get into investing in properties. That was the way around that we did it and you did it. And it really can be a rocket for your property investment. But Isaac's been giving some great questions today. Isaac, would you put the link to join in your clubhouse into the comments? Because there's quite a few clubhouse people here, and I think they might enjoy your clubhouse room that I know that you're doing regularly. And Isaac's question here is, same question to Stephanie. I thought you touched on it on the Inside Property Investing podcast. Yeah, I was on the Inside Property Investing podcast with Mike Stenhouse, an incredible property podcast. It's been going, it's like the granddaddy of them all. It's been going since 2015, so it's into its 6th year now. And Nikki and I were on a recent episode, so do check that out. But our future, we just can't believe from where we are, because 5 years ago, I didn't even know what an HMO is. And now we're not only got our rent-to-rent business, but we've also, like you, built up. At the moment, we own 28 units, where our objective initially, just picked a number out of the air, is 100 units. We're setting up a SaaS pension, so we can continue tax effectively to invest in property. And I love a business, and I'm just such an unlikely business person from my past. I was a professional procrastinator. Nothing much got done, and apart from like the 9 to 5. And now I get so much done, and I've just had a real mindset shift, and I'm excited. Shift. I need to watch. I need to enunciate with the F. And yeah, so I love what we do, but our goal really is we have outsourced. In terms of my role, we've outsourced our HMO Heaven. I'm involved half a day a week, and I actually did some podcast episodes reviewing the year, episodes sort of 50 to 53-ish, and in there I talk about how I run HMO Heaven, and my involvement is about half a day a week. But my sister is more involved, so the objective for this year is to replace her role in that business as well. What we love doing is teaching, inspiring, and we've really built up the most fantastic rent-to-rent Kickstarter program. We've just revised it, remade it. We want it absolutely to be the best, deliver the best rent-to-rent training that's possible. And we've also got, obviously, our rent-to-rent book that's now live on Amazon. It's half price today at $4.99. It will be going up this evening, so please get it now, because I hate it when people then contact me after it's gone up and say, can I get it in the old? Because it's Amazon. We can't do that. But anyway, going back, sorry, I'm going to take you totally off track. Going back to today, Steve, let's talk about where you are now. Paint that picture. Tell us about the move from when you were doing rent to rent and then you decided to start buying properties. When did that happen?
Yeah, I guess it's after having the rent-to-rent business for almost 3 years, we kind of built up quite a bit of a deposit to buy a property. Used some funds from my design business as well, but a lot of the money came from our rent-to-rent business. So, when you look at rent-to-rent business, it doesn't have to be just a cash flowing business to cover your income. We were using it as a stepping stone to buy properties as well. And actually, one of our rent-to-rent properties is in Greenwich, and it's owned by one of my best friends.
Oh,
so we managed that for him, which is really great fun. And the property next door went on the market. We couldn't believe it when we were just doing like a random inspection of the rent-to-rent property, and we saw the for sale sign up outside the property next door, and we soon discovered it had been on the market previously, but the sale had fallen through. So yeah, it was just with purple bricks. We did a viewing, put an offer in, a bit of a cheeky offer, in fact, which got turned down. But we got a good deal actually, and it was below market value anyway, because the vendor had already moved up north. The property had been empty for a while, and the sale had fallen through. So yeah, we kind of found that property by chance, really. We've just converted. We spent last year, through the pandemic, we got it on site, got it transformed, extended it, and turned it into a really amazing looking 6-bed HMO. And it's fantastic. We could have filled the room several times over, even though we were kind of advertising it through the lockdown last summer.
Yes, I saw it, Steve. It looked amazing. Are the pictures online? Where could people see the pictures of this, Steve?
Yeah, so they can see them on my Facebook page. If they go to 360property.group, there'll be photos on there as well.
Yeah, great. Well, Steve, we've had such a good chat today. I just want to thank you for coming on, being real with everything that's been going on for you, showing us all your Dubai lifestyle. And before we leave today, are there any words of advice or inspiration that you would give to people who are just starting off now in rent to rent, but maybe a little bit hesitant to get started?
Yeah, because I think there's lots of training programs out there for rent to rent, but you don't have to spend a fortune. There's lots of information out there that you can get for free. Just spend time researching rent to rent. Learn from others who are successful in the industry. Buy Stephanie and Nikki's book. I've had a sneak preview of that, by the way. It's brilliant. I think it's really well put together. So, buy the book. These are all different ways you can learn. But also, I think one of the biggest impacts is to surround yourself with other rent-to-rent investors. So, get networking. I think everyone should really be doing at least two networking events a month, especially if you're just starting out. Immerse yourself in that. And I might just give a plug to the next Rent-to-Rent Live event, 9th of February. So if you just go to rent2rent.live, you can get tickets there. And that's a great event. And we set that event up it's all about connecting property investors and promoting rent-to-rent in an ethical way. It's to help people become more successful. So yeah, it's good. So I had 100 people at this month's event. It's been running for just over a year now, and it's different. There's no other networking event like it in the UK. Pleased to say Stephanie's going to be joining us on the 9th as well.
Yeah, I'm all in. I've loved what you've been doing at Rent to Rent Live ever since you started, Steve. I was speaking there, as you said, in January. I'm joining you as for a session that you have. It will be coaching somebody next month, and I'm delighted to be involved. Really highly recommend to you all, if you're interested in Rent to Rent or you're doing Rent to Rent Live is the place to be. And Steve didn't mention, but he's also got some new parts to Rent to Rent Live where you can go VIP. Do you want to tell us about that, Steve?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Yeah, we're just launching Rent to Rent Live VIP, which is a monthly membership. And it gives you access to all the event recordings over the last year. So we've had so many people asking for these recordings. We've had so many great interviews and talks on there. So you can watch them on demand. You can get it from only £15 a month, which is the same price as an event ticket. Mm-hmm. So become a VIP member, and you get your event ticket included, and you get all the access to all the recordings on demand. Mm-hmm. And we've got lots of exclusive interviews and a few bonuses being added on there shortly. And that's at rent2rent.live.
Brilliant. I put rent2rent.live in the comments as a link, so you can all check that out. And Carol's saying, thanks for your advice, Steve. And Carol's also saying, I've started your book last night, Stephanie. It's brilliant. So that one's made my day. And if you have bought the book already, you'll have bought it on Kindle. Put in the comments, I got the book, and I will reply giving you a little bonus. I'll message you with a little bonus. So just put below, I got the book. Now, some of you have been asking, when is the paperback coming out? I've only got this one copy, and it will be coming out on Amazon on the 5th of February. It'll be coming out at $12.99. So do get the Kindle today, is only $4.99. So encourage you to get it today on launch day before tonight, when it'll be going up. But thank you so much, Steve, for coming on and sharing your wisdom and knowledge. Is there anything you want to say before we close?
Only that I think I forgot to mention a question. Somebody asked, is there any disadvantages to working remotely out here?
Yeah.
And apart from not knowing how we're going to get home at the moment, I'd say no, there's no disadvantages. Yeah, exactly.
And there's a few other things. So do check out the comments. On Clubhouse, Isaac's room is called Morning Coffee Meet and Rent to Rent, and it's every Wednesday at 11 a.m. And hopefully Steve and Stephanie as guests. Yes, definitely. I'm sure that, Steve's giving it the thumbs up as well. So thank you for joining us all of this week on the Rent to Rent Rocket Live series. Thank you, Steve, for joining us today and providing us with massive value. If you haven't got the book, do go and pick it up. And I will see you. It's at rent2rentsuccess.com/book. And on Amazon. And we'll see you all soon. Okay, bye for now.
Bye, everybody.